Okay, so today we're going to be looking at Tehmina Durrani's autobiography, My Feudal Lord.
Okay.
And
heavy stuff.
It's a really powerful book, and honestly, at times, really disturbing.
Yeah.
It's about her life with Mustafa Khar,
right,
who was a really powerful man in Pakistan.
Absolutely.
And I think for a lot of our listeners, it'll be a glimpse into how power works.
Yeah,
and
especially in
a system.
Feudal system.
Yeah, like a feudal system that still has a lot of influence in a lot of parts of the world.
Yeah, and I think what Durrani does really well in this book is she exposes the kind of like the dark side of the whole feudal lord thing.
Right, yeah.
These guys are often romanticized as these charismatic,
like from a bygone era.
Yeah, exactly. Powerful.
Right.
But, what's the reality behind this whole facade?
Yeah, and right from the start, she starts to challenge that image.
Totally.
Like in the author's note.
Yeah. She even says, she's like, there's this picture that people have of these feudal lords as being these tall, dark, handsome men.
Yeah.
Maybe a little rough around the edges, but powerful.
Yeah.
And it's like a fantasy, you know? It completely ignores what they actually do.
Yeah, it's this sort of calculated dismantling of that fantasy, isn't it?
Yes.
She's like, this isn't a fairy tale.
Right.
This is about the real damage that this kind of power does.
Yes.
Particularly to women.
And the way she describes Khar's behavior is, it's scary.
It is.
Like, he's so controlling, abusive, and honestly, kind of terrifying. Like, one thing that really stood out to me was how he used his power to just shut everyone up.
Oh, absolutely.
To silence everybody.
Yeah.
Like, to manipulate all the women around him.
Yeah, right.
It's not even just his wives.
Right.
He would, control her family.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's really important, right?
Yeah.
Because it shows that feudalism isn't just about owning land.
Right.
It's about this whole
system. Yeah.
A system of control.
Right.
That affects every single part of life.
Yeah.
And as we see in this book, right? It means that these lords, quote unquote, can basically do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And often they get away with it because society's kind of okay with it.
Yeah.
It's like their power makes them untouchable.
So for all of you listening, think about this.
Right.
What does it actually mean to be a feudal lord?
Yeah.
Because in this case, it means having all the power over everybody around you.
Yeah.
Using fear, intimidation, even violence to stay in control.
It makes you wonder how this stuff can still be happening in the 21st century, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it raises this bigger question, how do we even recognize this stuff?
Right.
These power dynamics. Yeah.
In our own lives.
Right.
Maybe they're not as bad as what Durrani went through.
Yeah.
But they're still there.
It's easy to get lost in the drama of her story, but I think we have to step back for a second and think about what it all means.
Right.
What does her story actually tell us about being a woman in a place where feudalism still has so much power?
She gives us this really vivid picture of her childhood.
Yeah.
Like strict routines, always being warned about men.
Right.
It was suffocating.
Yes.
She couldn't even answer the phone or go see her friends without permission.
Right.
Does that sound like freedom?
No.
No.
It's she was raised to be completely obedient.
Absolutely.
Maybe even to be the perfect wife.
Exactly.
For a man like Khar.
Yes.
Someone who would never even think about questioning him.
Right. Her childhood basically sets the stage for her marriage to Khar.
Yeah.
It's a really sad reminder.
Yes.
Of what's expected of women.
Right.
In a place like that.
Yeah.
Where the rules are all made by men.
And it's clear that the way she grew up had a huge impact on how she saw men and marriage.
Of course, of course.
She even says she felt like she wasn't good enough.
Right.
Really isolated, condemned by nature.
Yeah.
Because of how she looked.
It's odd.
And that feeling of not being good enough, along with this pressure to find a good husband, made her easy to manipulate.
Exactly. She wanted to get away from her family.
Right.
But she ended up with someone even worse.
It's like jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire.
Oh, yeah.
Her first marriage to Anis.
Right.
It was obviously just a way to get free.
Yeah.
Even though she said she didn't love him.
Yeah.
It just shows you how few choices women had.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Society pushes them into these marriages, and then they're trapped.
Yeah.
They're vulnerable.
And then there's Khar.
Right.
and his history.
Oh boy. With marriage.
Yeah.
This is a guy who would marry women who were, as the book says, in transit.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think that says about him?
I think it's all about power.
Yeah.
It's not about love. It's not about connection. Yeah. It's about control.
Right.
You know, look at his first 2 marriages.
Yeah, Wazir and then
Firdaus.
Yeah.
He gets bored. He gets rid of them, moves on.
It's like they're disposable.
Exactly.
It's like their feelings don't even matter to him.
It's like they're objects, you know, not people.
Yeah.
And it's sad because in that culture, women are often seen that way. Like they're only there to serve men.
Right.
It's like their own wants and dreams don't matter at all.
And then Tehmina comes along. And he sets his sights on her.
Here you go.
And he starts subtly, right?
Yeah, he's trying to charm her.
He wants her approval. He tries to impress her.
Right. He's like showing off his hunting skills.
Yeah, his power.
Yeah, he's playing a part.
Yeah, he's like acting.
Yeah, totally.
But as they get closer, that act disappears.
The mask comes off.
And you see how the power is so unbalanced.
Totally.
He isolates her
Yeah.
from her friends and family.
Classic manipulation.
Dictates her every move.
Right. He wants her to depend on him for everything.
And the book is full of these awful stories
I know.
that show this.
Yeah.
Like there's one where he makes her go back home.
Oh, yeah.
And get him money.
In front of
in front of all their friends.
Oh, humiliating.
It's humiliating. And then there's that milk incident.
Oh, God.
Where he, like, attacks a servant.
Yeah.
Because Tehmina didn't drink her milk.
It's crazy.
I know, it's insane.
How can anyone act like that?
I know.
It's not just a one-off. It's, it's like
a pattern.
Yeah, it's abuse. He's putting her down, making her feel small.
Yeah.
Destroying her confidence.
And the feudal system just makes it worse.
It makes it seem normal, almost.
And the physical abuse is just...
Oh, it's terrible.
Horrible. Yeah. He beats her over and over for the smallest things.
It's scary.
And there's this one part that's really chilling where he makes her call her mother.
I know, while she's naked.
While she's naked.
It's awful.
It's so cruel.
It is.
Like, why?
Yeah, what was he trying to do? It's all about control. You know, he's trying to break her, make her feel totally worthless.
Yeah.
It's like he's taking away her humanity.
It's just awful. And to think that she lived like that.
I know.
For years, trapped with this man.
It's hard to imagine.
I know. It makes you wonder how anyone could keep hoping.
Right.
In a situation like that.
I think that's what makes this book so important, you know?
Yeah.
It shows us what so many women go through.
Right.
Silenced by fear and all the pressure from society.
Yeah.
It's not easy to talk about, but it happens.
More than we want to think about.
Way more.
Yeah. And it's not something we can just ignore.
No, absolutely not.
So I want to ask everyone listening.
Yeah.
What can we do
to
help people who are going through this?
Yeah. How can we change things?
How do we change the culture that lets this happen?
It's a big question.
I know.
We need to listen.
Yeah.
Believe survivors and make sure abusers are held accountable.
Yeah.
We have to create a world where women feel safe to speak up.
Yeah.
To get help.
This story shows us that feudalism is still alive.
Oh, yeah.
In so many ways.
It's insidious.
Even in places that think they're modern.
Right. It's a system that thrives on
inequality. Violence.
Keeping people silent.
It protects the powerful.
No matter who gets hurt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's up to all of us to fight back.
Yeah.
To demand justice.
Right.
To make a fairer world.
We can't just sit back and do nothing.
No complacency.
When Tehmina finally gets away from Khar.
It's just the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Of another awful chapter.
Right.
She wasn't just running from him.
It is bigger than that.
She was challenging the whole system.
Yeah, it's incredible that she managed to escape.
I know.
Think about the stigma around divorce.
Especially in that culture.
Huge.
And the whole time, Khar could have come after her.
Oh, absolutely. He wanted revenge.
Well, it's scary to think about.
It shows you that even when you get away, you're not really free.
And then the fight for their kids.
Oh, that was brutal.
He kidnapped them.
I know.
Took them back to Pakistan.
Used them as leverage.
To try and force her to come back.
What does that tell you about him?
I mean, he didn't care about his own kids.
He didn't.
He just wanted to win.
It's classic abuser behavior.
Yeah.
I don't care who they hurt.
And the way he turned her own family against her.
Yeah, that was awful.
It's like a textbook example of how abusers work.
Isolate the victim.
Cut them off from everyone.
Exactly.
He played on their fears.
Yeah, their prejudices.
Made them think she was the bad guy.
The one who brought shame.
It's heartbreaking, you know.
It is.
To see how these cultural norms can be used against women.
To control them, silence them.
Tehmina was completely alone.
She lost everything.
Husband, kids, family.
How do you even come back from that?
It's hard to imagine.
It is.
But she found strength in unexpected places.
Yeah, she connected with other women.
Right.
Who'd been through the same thing.
It's amazing how shared experiences can help.
It's like finding your tribe.
Right.
The people who get you.
And she started to speak out.
Yes.
Using her voice.
Powerful.
To challenge the whole system.
It's a transformation from victim to survivor.
To advocate. And that wasn't easy.
Oh, no.
She faced backlash.
Of course.
People accused her of lying.
Trying to get revenge.
Of betraying her family.
Your culture.
It's what happens when you challenge the status quo.
People don't like it.
But she didn't back down.
Yeah.
She stuck to her truth.
She had to.
Used her voice.
Yeah.
To fight for other women.
To hold Khar accountable.
It takes so much courage.
It does.
And she inspired others.
Yeah.
Other women started to come forward.
To share their stories.
To demand change.
It's proof that one person can make a difference.
Yeah.
That one voice can start a movement.
One of the things that really stuck with me was how she talked about her own struggles.
Her internal battle.
Yeah, like she wasn't just fighting the outside world.
She was fighting herself.
Yeah, she felt worthless.
Like it was her fault.
Yeah, blamed herself.
That's what abusers do.
Yeah.
They mess with your head.
Make you doubt yourself.
Make you think you're crazy.
And it can be so hard to break free.
From that kind of thinking.
Especially when society tells you the same thing.
Right.
Like you're trapped in your own mind.
But Tehmina's story shows us that it's possible.
Yeah.
To find yourself again.
To accept yourself.
To realize you deserve better.
That it wasn't your fault.
And that you have the right to live free from violence and control.
That realization is so powerful.
It is.
It's what lets you break the cycle.
Yeah.
Find your voice.
Fight for something better.
It reminds us that even in the darkest times, there's always hope.
Always hope for healing.
And it's amazing how she uses her experience to help others.
She becomes an advocate.
Right.
Fighting for women's rights.
Raising awareness.
It shows how resilient she is.
Yeah.
How committed she is to making the world a better place.
And then she goes back to Pakistan.
With Khar.
With Khar. But it doesn't last.
No surprise there.
She realizes that he hasn't changed.
People don't change that easily.
It's like that saying, a leopard can't change its spots.
Exactly. No matter how much we might want to believe it.
The abuse starts again.
Same patterns.
He goes back to his old ways.
Manipulation. Even though they were supposed to be starting over.
It just proves that abusers don't change.
Right. Their behavior is too ingrained.
And those promises of getting better.
It's just another way to manipulate you.
It must have been devastating for her.
Oh, absolutely.
She put so much faith in him.
She thought he could be different.
Risked everything to be with him.
To fight for him.
Only to find out that he couldn't change.
It's a tough lesson.
Yeah.
But it's an important one.
It's like a turning point.
Yeah.
She finally sees him for who he really is.
She realizes she can't save him.
Right.
Can't fix him.
The only person she can save
is herself.
And
that's a huge step.
Yeah.
For anyone who's been abused.
To understand that you're not responsible.
The abuser's behavior.
And she does save herself.
She does.
She leaves him.
For good.
For good. This time her family's behind her.
They finally see the truth.
It's such a powerful moment.
It is.
She's free.
True freedom.
That shows how strong she is.
How determined.
To break free.
From the abuse.
From the cycle.
And it's not just about escaping the abuser.
Right.
It's about taking back your life.
Your voice.
Your power.
Knowing your worth.
Not settling for anything less.
Than respect.
And dignity.
Tehmina's story is a powerful indictment.
Absolutely.
Of the feudal system.
That protected Khar.
That let him get away with everything.
It shows the dark side.
Of a system.
That gives a few people all the power.
And keeps everyone else down.
And it shows how these systems can stay around even when a place seems modern. You know, it's like they're hiding in plain sight.
Right. It's a wake-up call.
Totally. We have to keep fighting inequality.
Everywhere we see it.
Wherever it pops up.
One of the interesting things about this story is how Tehmina starts to explore the world outside of her marriage and her family.
She's breaking free.
Yeah, it's like she's finally figuring out who she is.
On her own terms.
What do you think caused that?
I think she realized that she's not just someone's wife. Or daughter.
Yeah.
She's her own person with her own thoughts and feelings.
And she's not afraid to show it.
Exactly. She's taking charge of her life.
But it's not all smooth sailing?
No, of course not.
Her family, especially her mother, still tries to control her.
They want her to go back to Khar.
Like it's all about saving face.
It shows how strong those societal pressures can be.
Even when you're trying to break free.
They're always there lurking in the background.
And her relationships with her sisters?
Oh, yeah. Adila and Zarmina.
They're so complicated.
I know, it's like a mix of rivalry and...
betrayal.
Yeah, and this deep need for connection.
Like they want to understand each other.
But they're trapped in this system.
Where women are pitted against each other.
It's heartbreaking.
And then she writes the book.
My Feudal Lord.
That was such a brave thing to do.
Incredibly brave. She knew she was risking everything.
Reputation, her place in society.
Maybe even her safety.
What do you think gave her the strength to do that?
I think she realized that her story could help other women.
Yeah.
That she could expose Khar.
And the whole system that protects him.
She knew that if she stayed silent, nothing would change.
And of course, the book caused a huge uproar.
Oh, yeah. People were furious.
They said she was lying.
Making it up for revenge.
Betraying her family, her culture.
It's classic victim blaming.
Right. It's easier to attack the messenger
than to face the truth.
But she didn't let them silence her.
No way she stood her ground.
Kept speaking out.
Demanding justice.
It's amazing how resilient she is.
She's a force of nature.
And it worked. You know?
It did.
Other women started speaking out too.
Sharing their stories.
Demanding change.
It shows that one person's courage can inspire others.
Tehmina's story ends on a note of hope.
Yeah. She finds peace.
She's free from Khar.
She gets her kids back.
And she's found her voice.
As an advocate for women's rights.
It's a powerful reminder that even after all that trauma, healing is possible.
Absolutely, you can overcome anything.
Her journey shows us how important it is to grow.
To learn.
To challenge the systems that hold us back.
My Feudal Lord is more than just a book.
It's a call to action.
A wake-up call.
For all of us to fight for a better world.
Where everyone is treated with respect and dignity.
So we want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen this kind of abuse of power?
In your own life.
In your relationships, at work, in the world around you.
Have you ever felt silenced or pushed aside because of your gender?
What can we do to change things?
How can we create a world where everyone has a voice?
Remember, change starts with speaking up.
Just like Tehmina did.
So what will your story be?